To episode 1 of the Angry Soccer Guys podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Wilson, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing the 5 things I learned from the U.S. men's national team game and just their experience through Copa America. And what I want to do with this video, starting my first podcast with the Angry Soccer Guy, okay, is to make this very simple. And I want to talk about the things that other people don't want to talk about. Like just point blank, everybody is ignoring like the truth and the reality of these 5 things, at least that I've seen so far, in regards to the U.S. men's national team and how it translates like across the board for the country. So these are the 5 things that I learned from the U.S. men's national team game yesterday and kind of through the Copa America. Okay, so here are the 5, and I'm going to like break them down as we go through it. So the first one is the Golden Generation title is false. Right? So Golden Generation title is false. I'll come back to this. 2, ignoring youth development and the truth behind it. Okay, that's 2. 3, the possible best long-term solution, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing, unfortunately, it means we're going to have some pain early, but that would be that the USA crashes at the Olympics and the World Cup in 2026. This also includes the women not doing well. And the reason why I say that, which I'll come back to, but I'll quickly give the information because you're going to say, why would you say that? Is because we have to admit that we've had failures. As a country, U.S. soccer at the top and everybody underneath that has to admit that we've had failures. And the only way that I see long-term change happening is we have a complete and utter crash at the senior national level. If we don't have that, we're going to keep plugging along doing the same thing we've been doing for 20, 30, 40 years. Now, 4, CONCACAF is like youth soccer. So again, I'll come back to this, but what I'm highlighting is that the level in CONCACAF is like the top teams going to the bronze bracket to win like that. That's what it looks like. And I'll come back in a second with this. And then the last one is based on the current market of how youth soccer is going, the only way that I see we can fix the mess, the only way, right? Based on current trajectory of many things not changing. Okay. And it's going to suck to say this or like explain it to you this way, but that's how it's going to be. Okay. So let's go down each one by one. So the first one is, the Golden Generation title is false. Do we have maybe the best players we produce because you have Christian Pulisic, maybe Gio Reyna, maybe Musa, right? Maybe those types of guys? Okay, maybe. 3 good 4 players. Fine. But like, I'm looking at everybody else. I would prefer the 2002 team compared to this team. Straight up, point blank. If you ask me which team would I pick, I would pick 02's versus this team. And the reason for that is, yeah, we have one player that's levels above Pulisic. You have a second player, Gio Reyna, who's close, but I still think he's behind. And then you have a guy like Musa. I like Musa, but I don't think he stamps his authority enough on the game. And what's happening is, I think some of these guys, I mean, all of them are playing in Europe, obviously, but we're saying like, okay, they're playing in Europe, but they're not playing at the top level in Europe. You got arguably one guy, Christian Pulisic at AC Milan. He didn't make it at Chelsea, but he goes to AC Milan. Okay, no problem. But, you know, okay, yeah, we have more guys in Europe. Cool. But they're not playing at the top level, right? They're not playing for Man City. They're not playing for Real Madrid. They're not playing for Bayern Munich. This is what's happening, right? And this is the problem that people want to like, I guess, just ignore and not accept the fact on. So it's a problem, right? So it's not a golden generation. Do we have 1 or 2 players that are better? Sure. Okay, fine. But that's it. Like, there's nothing else with that. I don't buy into the golden generation thing. It doesn't exist for me. It's just, it's business to say, hey, this is our best crop of players ever. I don't even agree with that. This is our best crop of players ever. Can we play maybe better football? Okay, yeah. I mean, there was times that we moved the ball decently well, but we still weren't clinical enough. If you look at the XG, we had 0.26 compared or versus Uruguay. Like, it's not even close, bro. So, and that'll tie into what I'm going to say later. The second part is probably the biggest piece here. We ignore youth development. So I'm listening to all the ex-professionals talk, and they're saying, you know, this is the issue with the national team. And there are, you know, some valid points or whatnot. But then I listened to Wes Morgan, and he brings up, well, how serious, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about how serious is your youth development stuff. And they just ignored it. Like, oh, that's not the issue. We're talking about the national. Okay, I don't know a single country in the world that has won Copa Americas, won World Cups, won the European Championship, that doesn't have at least a strong youth development platform. Like just, point blank, straight up. If we don't have a strong youth development platform, I don't see us ever being serious at winning a Copa America or winning a World Cup. Can we win the Gold Cup because there's nobody in it? Cool. Yeah, all day we can win that. Right? But we just don't have the development structure. Like when you have people coming out saying that ECNL is the best league in the world, then you know we're full of shit. Like, pardon my French, but I just got to put it that way. Like it's crazy. And I want to bring you two ideas real quick. And this is why I'm saying this. So like even Germany and Italy, they've struggled recently, and Germany made their first change before the 2006 World Cup. Italy is now kind of like in a crisis, even though they won the last Euros, but they're failing at basically everything else. They just got knocked out of this last Euros. They're changing their entire youth development structure. Like they're going to go 5v5 up to U15 because they're not getting the success that they need. In fact, I just read an article today. I think it was Fabio Capello that said, we need to have more dribblers like Spanish players. I don't even know if Spanish develops top-level dribblers. I don't know. I mean, obviously they develop very good players. But it's like, we're not talking about the problem. And youth development is the key thing here. I'm in the day-to-day of youth development every single day, and I see it all the time. Parents want to win. Coaches want to win. So they don't care. And Alexi Lalas touched on it. Like, he's like, the American spectator just wants to see a win. They don't care how you win. They just want to see a win, which means parents and coaches, and obviously the clubs, want parents to be happy because that's what Alexi Lalas highlighted, and he's right. I agree with him, probably for once, about that at least. And we have all these small little problems with youth development. Like, dude, I live in Florida. There's 26 competitive youth leagues, and there's no promotion and relegation through them. You just pick your league. If you can get in, you play. I mean, that's how crazy this whole thing is. And it's just a giant mess. And like I posted a tweet today and I shared it on Instagram. I'm like, how many of the starting players from 8 to 18 went through the entire youth system of America? And some people said like Pulisic, and I'm like, he left at 16 for 100%. Oh, but you don't want to give him credit. It's not about not wanting to give him credit. It's not what I asked. I asked from 6 to 18 or 8 to 18, whatever it was. And it's like, bro, come on, man. You're ignoring what I'm asking you. That's why I gave the example back of this player named Nick that I developed for 2.5 years. Yeah, I developed him here. He's now been in Europe since. Where would I give his credit to making it? Not here. I'd give his credit to Europe, not me. And I got him to a certain, or at least helped him get to a certain point. So there's just a lot of stuff that's just not correct. Youth development is a complete utter train wreck until we fix youth development, because let me ask you guys that are listening to this. Have you ever seen a country win a World Cup or a European Championship or a Copa America that doesn't have at least a decent, and I'm using the word decent, development program? Youth development structure? I don't know one. Zero. And so we can't be serious about winning a World Cup until we solve this fundamental problem. Straight up. I don't know why this is so hard to understand and grasp. And this is why, and this will lead me back to, or into point 3, which it sucks to say it, but I think this needs to happen for U.S. soccer to really ring the alarm bells and for everybody to be like, okay, this has to change, which would be, we just crashed out of Copa America. We crash out of the Olympics in 2 months. We crash out at the 2026 World Cup at home, and the women don't do well at the Olympics and at the next World Cup. If that happens, then U.S. soccer really has to ring the white flag and say, we surrender. We have to fix this, because what's happening isn't working. Now, some people might say, well, pay to play. I agree pay to play is not good, but I need you guys to understand, and I'm going to tell you the truth right now, pay to play is never going to go away in my lifetime. And I'm going to very quickly explain why. So for pay to play to end, this would have to happen. Promotion and relegation would have to happen. Would have to happen. Straight up. Promotion and relegation. Well, here's the issue. This is not going to happen because there are multiple professional organizations. So you have MLS, you have USL, you have NISA, you have UPSL, you have USSSL, you have all these other leagues. Okay, so they're not going to get together, right? That just won't happen. I mean, I guess it could happen, but I don't see it happening in my lifetime. So what happens is, or what then would happen is, you would have to say, MLS, okay, you're going to have to get everybody together. You're going to have to create promotion relegation. But what's going to happen with that is, let me ask you this question. Let's say you and me decide to go start and we buy an MLS franchise. Let's say we go to North Dakota because there's not a team there. We call it North Dakota FC. I don't know, the Mountaineers. I don't know, something, right? Well, we would have to spend between $300 to $500 million for a franchise. That's just to start. That's to get access to it. So if we're businessmen or women, okay, who would take that investment and then be okay with losing $500 million in year one? There's no business person that will ever accept that. That would be stupid. So because that's stupid, they're never going to accept it. I wouldn't accept that. If I knew I had to spend $500 million, like San Diego is $500 million, $500 million for the franchise. They're going to start next year. Do you think that they're okay with losing because they got relegated and they lose all their money? Like the value of their organization is going to drop significantly, right? It just won't happen, right? And then I'll flip it to you this way. Think about Inter Miami. Could you imagine if Inter Miami got relegated? You know how many problems that would cause if Inter Miami with Messi, Busquets, and Suarez got relegated? Like that would just bring mayhem. So that's why it's not going to happen. But I want to kind of get back to the long-term solution. So I'm going to say it one more time. You know, maybe you're new or whatever. But the long-term solution that I'm seeing based on what just happened would be, and we're going to have short-term pain. But the short-term pain would get us to the point where U.S. Soccer says enough is enough, we have to fix this. Or they're going to hire me and say, Kyle, you take over and fix this, and I'll fix it. Okay, but long story short. So we've already crashed out of the Copa America. We have to crash out at the Olympics for men and women, like do poorly. And then we got to crash out at the 2026 World Cup, and then we got to crash out at the Women's World Cup. If those two things happen, then change. U.S. Soccer would have to be waving the flag and say we need to change something. But the key thing with this is we have to admit as a country we have a problem. But I'll tell you this. When I did my C license for U.S. Soccer, so I did my U.S. Soccer C license, I finished it in December. I had multiple conversations with the instructors, and they all, I don't know if they were being honest with it, but this is what they said. The USA is not far away from winning a World Cup. And I'm like, what planet are you on? Because if we can't get youth development right, which we can't, we haven't produced one single world-class men's player. Have we produced the women? Yes, but that's because there was really nobody challenging us at the time. Okay? And we can touch on that later. But it's like, we're not producing a world-class men's player. That should be enough to tell you that we're not going to win a World Cup. Because in my opinion, to win a World Cup, you have to have a 23-man roster that is essentially world-class, or at least overwhelming majority world-class. Because the level's only getting harder and higher. Like you look at the young boys for Spain. Yamal. Dude, 16 years old, starting for Spain every single game. You know what he has, though? Creativity in 1v1. So again, looking at youth development, our youth development structure does not promote creativity, 1v1, 2v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, and that's the stuff, in my opinion, that will save American soccer. Even with pay to play. If we have 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, up to 5v5, we could actually possibly swing pay to play in our favor. This will not happen. Because if you change the age group formats to be, let's say, 2v2, 3v3, and then 5v5 up to, let's say, U13, there's going to be money dripping out of the funnel that's known as U.S. Soccer. Because we have 77, 99, 11v11. That's more money in the pocket. For clubs, for U.S. Soccer, everybody involved, it's just continuing to happen. So it's like it just won't happen. Like it's not even close. So if those things don't change and we don't admit our failures, and I think that's the only way that U.S. Soccer would come out and say, we got it wrong, we're sorry. Kyle, we're going to hire you and we're going to correct this. You know, I'm joking. I don't think U.S. Soccer would probably hire me. But the point that I'm trying to make is I don't have every single answer, but what I do know is as a guy that's worked in grassroots for 10 years, and I'm not talking about the badge leagues, but there are badge leagues that have the same problem. So by badge league, I'm talking MLS Next, ECNL, EA, EAL, you pick your league. Okay, but I'm talking about those non-leagues. our structure of youth is not good. Like, unfortunately, we have kids that can't play football. Like, I was talking to a parent today. Kids in 2017. Kid has tremendous potential, but they don't have any skill. Well, this is the truth. This is the problem. The American players are not born into football. They're raised into it. The ones that are born into it, you see a significant difference between, players with football heritage and non-football heritage. So myself is the perfect example. My family had no athletic background, no sporting background at all. I did not benefit from football heritage. I benefited from being raised in the system and learning, paying to learn to get all this information. So if that stuff doesn't change, it's going to be a problem. Now let's go to point 4. This one's probably my favorite out of all of them. CONCACAF is like youth tournaments. Okay, so you're probably like, what is he even talking about? What does that mean? Okay, cool. Well, the level in CONCACAF is a joke. Like, people are getting excited when we smash Grenada 8-0. It's Grenada. Who is Grenada? Like, okay, great, they're their own country, but in the footballing world, who is Grenada? Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully to them. I'm just trying to highlight the point that they don't have level. We can't compare apples to oranges. That's why when we go and play a team like Uruguay or a team like Colombia that is at the next level above us, we can't break that threshold because we're not consistently playing against the best teams. Now, let's translate it to youth development. What do all parents want? They want to win. What do the clubs want? They want to have parents happy. So how do you make parents happy? You have them win. Do you know how many times I've watched tournaments where teams will purposely put gold bracket divisions into bronze? So that'd be like saying, okay, here's Brazil, or let's use Argentina because they just won the World Cup. Here's Argentina. They're the top level in the world right now. They're number 1, but they're going to go into CONCACAF and play CONCACAF, which would be bronze. Why? Because they want to smash everybody so they can pick up the Gold Cup trophy. That does nothing for Argentina. Nothing. Zero. It'd be a waste of their time. But they understand that they have to play better teams to get there. But we're stuck in CONCACAF division like bronze in youth soccer, just consistently playing against extremely low-level teams. And I would use the word like garbage. You're going to be like, that's disrespectful, but fine. Low-level teams that have no ability, and we're going out and smashing them. 8-0, 5-0, 6-1. And then when we lose to somebody like Jamaica, it's a shock to everyone. Oh my God, we just lost to Jamaica. Well, can't win every single game, can we? So you're going to lose somewhere along the line. And then when you're not playing the best teams, your level doesn't go up. So like, I'm watching the game against Uruguay yesterday, right? And I'm going, okay, you can see we have more effort, better ball possession. But I'm like, we're not creating anything. Like, we don't deserve to win the game. Long story short, like, we're not threatening them to win the game. Well, if we're not threatening them to win the game, how are you going to win the game, especially in a must-win game? So, again, Uruguay is a much better team on paper, but they're still not even the top dogs. They're not a Spain. They're not a Brazil, an Argentina, right? Think of the big boys, the powerhouses that win, okay? At least, recently. Historically, Uruguay is very good, but that's kind of the point here. Now, I hope that makes sense when I'm comparing CONCACAF to, bronze, gold, silver tournaments. Because when we look at CONCACAF, it's low-level teams. That'd be like a bronze. So and then you look at the two teams. Like, only Canada out of the top 3, quote unquote, only Canada passed through. We didn't. Mexico didn't. Is that not just like, extremely concerning, like a red flag for you to go, something's not right here? I wonder what it has to do. Maybe it's CONCACAF. And if I remember correctly, Canada scored 1 goal in 3 games, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but pretty sure that was a stat. So, and then like the XG from the U.S. men's national team game versus Uruguay was 0.26. What? We didn't even create half a chance to score. So there's that. Now, 5. Here's where the good news comes into play, so to speak. Okay, so the trick is, or the problem is, like I mentioned, we have all these issues, right? All these issues. Well, okay, we have all these issues. How do we fix it? Well, there's a couple of ways. So I feel like I have a moral responsibility to try and fix this. Okay, the first thing that I'm seeing is we need more of these 2 things. 1v1, 2v2, 3v3. Especially in the non-badge leagues. So I'm talking about the kids that are not in MLS Next, ECNL, EA, EAL, USYS Pro, NAL, whatever. And this would be, probably if we had to put a percentage of the kids that are in non-badge leagues, 90%, 90% plus, right? You tell me in the comments what you think is. Is it 90%? Is it higher? Is it slightly lower? I would say it's about 90%, if not higher, because the numbers don't, they don't add up. The majority of the kids playing are non-badge league kids. Well, the issue is they're not good enough. And by not good enough is they don't have the technical skill. They're not better players to be able to go play 77, 99, 11v11. So we have to create a program that meets them at their level. Well, for me, that's 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. Nothing else. And so they improved to get to that next level. So I had a player in one of my programs recently last week, and great kid. Oh my God, awesome kid. Had no level. So the parents asked me, what should I do? And I was like, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what I would do if I was in your situation. I would not put them in a club because they're going to go play 77. That's going to be a complete waste of your time because unfortunately this poor kid can't dribble the ball, has no ability to dribble whatsoever. They can't even pass. They swing and miss the pass all the time. So they literally swing and miss. And then third, they don't even know how to attack or defend. So how can I expect this player to go play 77 or 99? That would just be unreasonable. So I was like, if I'm you, you're going to start at home. They're going to practice at home. I gave them a video to go watch my 2,500 touch challenge for free. It's free. You can go watch it on YouTube. If you want the link, send me a DM and I'll send it to you. Call it and just write 2,500, so 2500. And that way it's technical training at home. I said, have her do that and then play 1v1, 2v2, 3v3 at home. Once she starts improving, find a group of kids, rinse and repeat with the kids. Once they improve a lot there, start going to 3v3 tournaments. Rinse and repeat. Once you get there, then you go to 77. That's what I said I would do. And if we don't fix or at least solve that problem and what I call saving USU soccer, we're not going to get more kids to the top because you have to bring let's look at it this way, right? So this is the top. We have to bring the bottom up. We have to bring the lower level players up. We're not doing that. We're not bringing the lower group of kids, the 90%, up. We're just saying it's over. Thanks for playing. We'll take the one or two kids that make it up. That's not doing what's right for the country. Okay, so we need to solve that problem. So implementation of 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3s. Okay, what about the kids that want to go and be better players? Okay, well, I'm taking out, what I'm trying to say is I would love to take out MLS Next, ECNL, EA, all that BS, bro. It's all, my opinion, you might not agree with me. I think it's all garbage. Unless you're in an MLS Academy, then you could maybe argue that otherwise. But if we don't solve that, it's a problem. So that's not going to happen, right? So you're like, oh, that's not going to happen. Agreed, it's not. So the only other logical solution, unfortunately, that I see, straight up, there's two possible logical solutions. One is you skip all the BS altogether, and this is how you would do that. You take a kid, they train them until they're 10, right? They play their thing, they do their stuff. No more than 5v5, maybe occasionally 7v7. Okay. Then from 11 to 14, play up. That way you're getting the physical challenge that you would get matched at MLS Next, ECNL, so on and so forth. Okay, the level of players might not be as good, but at least you skip the badges and you skip the BS. Okay, great. Once you get to 15, you go adult. You go UPSL, USSL, NISA. If you get USL, great. If you get MLS, great. The chance is so small though, but work your way up. Okay, well, that's going to be hard to do. Okay, so what's the other only logical solution? My opinion. A program that is a residency. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, I mean a program that is designed to help take kids to the next level through developing the person, educating them, and then athletics. But they have to go in that order. Now, the reason that I feel that this is the pathway is because understand my position, right? I've been in youth soccer for 10 years. And I told everybody, I was like, dude, I'm going to fix this whole thing because youth soccer is a joke. So I have a program called High Soccer Prospects, right? That's my club. So before it became High Soccer, it was called Florida Prospects. I had a whole plan written up how I was going to challenge the DA, the Development Academy, before it failed or ended because of COVID And then MLS Next came out. So I made this whole plan of how I was going to challenge the DA. And so like the point that I'm trying to make is I felt like I could fix the whole thing. Club soccer is never going to change. There's too much money, too much power, too much political mess that's in it. It's not going to happen. So then you have to think outside. How can we get around the system? How can we go past the system? How can we evade the system? How can we not enter the system known to milk parents? The cash cow. So like, quick context. I have been asked every single year for the last 3 years to register teams into, for example, USYS Pro or EAL. And I'm like, no, bro, we're skipping that. I don't want the badges. Because what I've found is when you take a badge, it becomes an even greater number game, which means you need more players because like if you want to be an ECNL, you have to be able to provide, I think it's at least 3 teams in different age groups. And if you can't do that, you can't get in. Now, they don't have to let you in anyways, but they want you to bring teams, which means you just need numbers. So you'll do whatever you can just to go get numbers because you want to keep these leagues because then you attract more people. So how can we get around it? Well, the only way that I think you can get around it is a residency program. Now, we have to be very careful because there have been residency programs that have, exploded, but then they focus on the dollar bill, right? They focus on this, which I understand, right? And like I was having a conversation today with a parent and they're like, Kyle, okay, well, what do you think separates you? And I'm like, okay, well, you might not think I separate. That's cool. But here's what I can tell you. I believe that we separate differently because we care about the kids. Do we make money from soccer? Yeah, make money from soccer. Straight up. But like, I'm telling you that I'm rejecting the leagues because I don't believe into that BS of the league because it forces you to have to grow to go get more kids without doing what's right for the kids. So if you believe in doing what's right for the kids, which is help them improve as a person, so improve the person first, because the reality is not everybody can be a professional player. It won't happen. Not everybody can be a collegiate player. It won't happen. But if you can prepare them for life, you're already on the right path. And then you provide them a good education. Then you're on the right path. And then you improve the student athletes. So the athlete piece, the player. Last, if we can do that in proper order, you're putting the kids first. Now, I don't want to knock any individual group, like organization or whatnot, but there are organizations that are residency programs that have just completely exploded into profit. And I don't blame them, bro, like straight up, because they realize that people continue to pay for their process. Cool. So you have to create a program that focuses on the individual player development. That's about the kid. Because pay to play is not going to end. And then, I'll give you a different scenario. The last couple of years, I've run different stuff for free. Last year, I did a camp for free. This year, we're doing pickup for free. People that are in club soccer, they don't want free. That's what I'm finding. I don't want, not me, but I'm saying parents don't want free. If it's free, they don't see the value associated with it. That's why there's residency programs or programs in general that are $90,000 a year. Well, if you pay that much money, you're probably thinking, it must be ridiculously good. Maybe not. Okay, so if you have any specific questions about a residency program, shoot me a message. We can have a conversation off camera. I don't want to put anybody on blast on camera, but you just got to be very careful because if it's not about the kids, and this is my problem with the badges, it's not about the kids, bro. It's a numbers game. So again, transparency. I get paid to do soccer. I do. I'm a paid coach. But if I flip that, right? The model that you want to have or that we want to have as a country is called compensation for formation, which means if my club develops a player, I then sell said player, I make money on that player. So I can make it free. Well, the issue is if I make a kid free today, and I say, little Johnny, I go to his parents, you don't have to pay, you're free. What incentive do I have? Oh, I want to help kids. Cool. Yeah, we want to help kids. Yeah, all day. We want to help kids. I've even run a program where we had 90 plus kids playing soccer for free twice a week. But we don't get anything out of that other than goodwill, helping kids. So I'm trying to provide you context for why other organizations don't offer stuff for free. They get nothing out of it. Like, you need to understand, like, I need you guys as parents or people listening to this to wrap your head around this, that if an organization decides to make itself free, they get nothing out of it. You feel good about helping kids. Yeah, sure, you do. But like, what do you get out of it? Well, the clubs in Europe, the clubs in South America are free because they have an incentive to develop these kids. Now, we could also talk about like, street playing and stuff. Like yesterday was my first day offering pickup games for free. In Orlando, there was like 20,000 people that saw my post. I don't know how many people from Orlando specifically, but let's just say 5,000 people. 14 kids showed up. 8 of them or 9 of them were from my club. 4 were from outside. To play soccer for free. Just to play. Pick up. Parents drop the kids off, they go play. And I'm like, people don't want free. I did a camp last year where 105 kids played soccer for free for 3 days. They trained. We paid probably $3,500 out of pocket in facility costs, coach costs, equipment costs over 3 days. And all we asked for was posts on social media saying thanks. And we asked all the parents, has your clubs ever done any of this? And everybody said no. We're like, hey, just give us some support on social media. Nobody, except like 3 people. And I'm like, so in the families that can pay, and I don't mean this strictly, I'm just highlighting the issue here. The families that can pay for soccer, the ones that can pay, they don't want something for free. They want to feel important. It's easier to go complain on social media that things cost too much versus when there's actually something for free, going to take advantage of it. So they could have came and done pickup soccer for free. They didn't do it. They rather pay for MLS Next or pay for ECNL or pay for EA or pay for EAL and then go on social media saying, oh my God, this stuff costs too much versus actually being like, you know what, we want to think outside the box. So what I'm trying to do now in Orlando is create, and we're building a residency program that will start in August. And I had a whole presentation audio that went off on this already that I already discussed the whole thing, but I'm just trying to highlight, like, I thought I could be the guy that could change club soccer. I told you I made a whole plan of how I was going to challenge the DA by myself. Well, I've come to realize that that's almost impossible. So I was like, okay, how can we go outside the box now and actually build a program? The only realistic solution that I'm seeing is residency, where the kids go to school, they train, they stay there until 5 o'clock, and then they go home until we can have dorms and whatnot. But it's like, until you have that, I don't see another way around it because there's so much BS that's in US soccer, USU soccer, and pay to play that will not change in my lifetime. Like, we would have to have ECNL, MLS Next, EA, EAL, USYS Pro all collapse. If it collapsed, then we could maybe try and do something different. But until that happens, I don't see any of this stuff changing, unfortunately. So I think this is the only model that works to produce players to get out of here. Like, and I want to throw you guys this question. So, like, probably many of you watching or listening to this, you have kids. Like, when you go to club practice and you play for a badge organization or just play for a club, right, and you don't have a coach that you went to go get or, like, you sought after, more than likely the training's inadequate. It's probably a joke, and the environment's just probably not very good. And a lot of people will complain and say, yeah, my coach doesn't coach and this happened. And I'm like, yeah, but you picked the organization. You went for that club. And here you are sitting complaining about it. You had a choice. You chose this path. The only person you need to look at is yourself. Oh, well, my son's coach doesn't coach. You chose this organization. You chose the badge. What are you complaining for? I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. You picked it. You should be like, you know what? That was a terrible decision. I'm not doing it again. But people don't want to do that. They rather complain. They rather say, this didn't work for us, and this coach doesn't do stuff, and I paid for this. Yeah, well, yeah, you could have fixed it. You should have not gone there. You decided to. Learn from your mistakes. But you're not going to. You're going to keep doing the same BS, and then your kid's going to get to 18 years old, not going to college, not being a professional, you're going to say, man, I should have done this all differently. Yeah, you should have. You should have listened to the angry soccer guy versus just do whatever you wanted to do. Like, I need you guys to understand, like, what I'm talking about, it's all love, bro. Like, straight up, I feel I have a moral responsibility to save USU soccer. Because, like, before I started being a voice, who was there? I did a bunch of research, and I saw, one or two professionals coming out and saying, the youth system's not good enough, we're not developing kids. Cool. But we're not talking about the nitty-gritty of what's actually wrong. That's the problem. And that's why I wanted to make this my episode 1 of the Angry Soccer Guy podcast. So it's a huge issue, man. So I think the key thing here, long story short, is a residency program. I don't see another way around it because there's too much money, there's too much political mess, there's too much power in the U.S. soccer market, USU soccer, and pay to play. So those are the 5 things that I learned from the U.S. men's national team game when they played against Uruguay and just kind of their overall experience with the Copa America, right? So I'll just recap them for you again if you came in late. The first one was the golden generation title is false. 2, we continue to ignore youth development. 3, I believe the best possible long-term solution, even though it's going to have a short-term problem, is the U.S. men's national team or the U23s crashed at the Olympics. The women's crashed at the Olympics. In 2026, we crashed at the World Cup. And then for the Women's World Cup, we crashed there as well. If that happens, we could actually possibly have change because then U.S. soccer would have to say, we admit defeat. We made a mistake. Okay, 4 is that CONCACAF is very similar to youth soccer tournaments. Imagine freaking Argentina playing in CONCACAF. That would be like a top-level team in youth soccer going to play bronze division because they just want to win. And then the last one is, my only realistic solution in this market is a residency program. Okay, so if that makes sense, I hope you enjoyed it. And those are my 5 things I learned from the U.S. men's national team. And that's it, guys. I appreciate you. This was episode 1 of the Angry Soccer Guy podcast, and I will catch you guys soon.